Hello everyone, and welcome to my latest Beatles collection video. Now this video is just going to focus on just random miscellaneous Beatles albums. So not compilations, not really new material, just, just random albums basically. You'll see what I mean once I get into the video. So first of all, we have the Sgt. Pepper's Picture Disc, released in 1979 in the UK. So yeah, it's the same album, just on picture disc rather than black vinyl. Now the tracks are in stereo for this album, and it's also got obviously a different catalogue number to the original album. And the actual disc looks like this. So here's the front with all the people on from the album cover, and on the back it's exactly the same. I believe you can also get an Abbey Road picture disc, which is quite similar to that as well, but I haven't got one of those. So anyway, here is Anthology 1, released in 1995, and there were 3 anthologies. I don't actually have a copy of Anthology 2, unfortunately, but I do have 1 and 3, so I can show you those. So here is Anthology 1 anyway, and this is my favourite anthology. It's got a lot of their very, very early stuff. I mean, it doesn't get any earlier than some of the material on here. Like, it's got Free as a Bird as well, which was released as a single in 1995, and that's from the John Lennon demo, which was added to by Paul McCartney and the other Beatles and made it into a single, which is very good. And some of my favourite tracks on this is That'll Be the Day and In Spite of All the Danger, which was the 2 sides of the single that first made back in Liverpool in something like 1958, something like that. And although obviously it's really kind of weak audio, because it's off a tiny little record, the audio is pretty weak, but at the same time it's fantastic to hear what's, I believe, their very first recordings. And anyway, it's also got quite a bit of their Tony Sheridan stuff, My Bonnie and Ain't Cheese Sweet and Cry for a Shadow, and a lot of early stuff, Three Cooler Cats, Searching. To be honest, I could name pretty much every song on here. Now the anthologies are triple albums, so it's quite a big cover. So here's these parts, very nice indeed, and that flips up to reveal more stuff underneath. It's got all the track listing, and it's even got info about each individual track on the cover here, so that's extremely interesting. And here's one of the labels for Anthology 1, this is side 1, it's on the Apple label. It's very similar to the Live at the BBC Apple label, in that it doesn't really have any information with regards to the track listing, because that's all detailed on the cover. And there's side 2. The anthology albums were actually re-released a few years ago, but these are the originals. And here is Anthology 3 as well. This focuses more on their later period, so I think this is like from the White Album to Let It Be. Again, very, very good. And here's the inside of the cover. That's a great picture there, I think, where they're in the field. I love that picture. And that lifts up to reveal a nice little colour collage there, including pictures of the rooftop concert. And as before, has detailed information about each track. This has a very similar Apple label to Anthology 1. However, you may have noticed there is a slight difference in that, as you can see, there is a groove, but also it's got the Capitol logo down there, and that's because this is an American issue, as it says there, printed in the USA. Next up is the Beatles' Love album, and this was released in the year 2007, so this is still a fairly recent Beatles release really, only 9 years old. And this has lots of kind of different mixes of already existing Beatles songs. As it says on the sticker there, features 26 tracks reworked by George and Giles Martin. The Beatles as you've never heard them before. And as you can see, this still has the shrink wrap on. It's come off at the top here, but other than that, it's still sealed. And here's the back. It's a double album. So it has some very interesting mixes of all of these songs. I do have this album on CD, which is where I listen to it. So yeah, very, very interesting album this. And here is the reissue of the Beatles Love album, which was re-released in 2014. So this is only a couple of years old, this copy. And this one is perfectly sealed. And it also has a sticker on. The Beatles, as you've never heard them before, features 26 tracks reworked by George and Giles Martin. Different sticker, but same information. And to be honest, the cover is more or less identical to the original issue. There's the track listing again on the double album. I think the only difference is on the original there was a Parlophone logo here as well, and obviously the text down below is a little bit different, but on the whole it's exactly the same. Now this, in my opinion, is a very interesting album. Let It Be Naked. Now this came out in 2003 actually, so this should have come before Love. But anyway, it's the Let It Be songs from the album, but it's like it's takes of them which are closer to how they originally sounded, like before Phil Spector got them and produced them and made them into what we know today. So these are a lot closer to how they originally sounded, so it's really stripped down, really basic, but quite good actually. Cover's good as well. Here's the back. Now, although they're not in the same order, it's got every track from Let It Be, except for Dig It and Maggie May, of course. And it also includes Don't Let Me Down, which is a great track. I think it should have been on the album anyway, personally. But anyway, so got all those tracks on there, and it also comes with a free single called Fly on the Wall, which is quite good. There's the Apple logo. And here is the gatefold sleeve for this album. Them playing the rooftop concert. And you also get quite a few things with this album, not just the single. You get this here. It's basically just a bit of cardboard, but here it is anyway, a bit of card. Let It Be Naked, the Beatles out now. So it's just advertising it basically. And as you can see, it's blank on the back. And you also get this cool booklet with lots of pictures and text in there. A lot of it's like transcripts of conversations and things of the Beatles. So that's very good, very nice. Sort of reminds me of the Let It Be, sorry, of the Get Back book that you get in the Let It Be box set. And here is the free 7-inch I mentioned earlier, Fly on the Wall. Nice little picture cover comes with it. So it's got bits of conversation on there basically. And as it says, a unique insight into the Beatles at work in rehearsal and in the studio during January of 1969, which is when this material was being recorded. So it's a nice little bonus feature. And here is the label for the single. And side 2. And here is the album itself. with a very similar label. Now here we have something which was released a couple of years ago, I think. It's called The Beatles Work in Progress, Outtakes from 1963. And it's just that. It's some early takes of some of the Please Please Me songs. So there's a place, I saw her standing there, stuff like that, Misery. And there's also From Me to You and Thank You Girl, lots of different takes. Bit of With the Beatles as well, down there. Now, I wouldn't really say it was anything to particularly write home about, but it's quite a nice little album. Yeah, and this was released in 2014. Now, I do have the shrink on, however, I have slit the side here so I can show you what the album looks like. So, here's side 1 and 2, well this is side 2 here. It is a double album. It comes in these nice black sleeves. And as I'm sure you can tell, it's on red vinyl, but not just any old red vinyl. It's got this really nice glittery, sparkly red vinyl, which looks great. Really like that. To be honest, that's probably my favourite thing about this album, just the look of the vinyl. I think that looks amazing. I am quite a fan of coloured vinyl, so I was pleased to see that. And here are sides 3 and 4. Same labels. However, this one is on blue sparkly vinyl, which also looks really nice, I think. Now this next one isn't really a Beatles album, but I just thought I'd show it anyway. It's the songs that Lennon and McCartney gave away, so songs they wrote for other people. And it's a very, very good track listing actually. It's got Cilla Black and The Foremost and Billy J. Kramer, Applejacks, Peter and Gordon. Quite a few big 60s artists on here. And many of these songs were #1 hits. And they're all really good. Very, very good album. And this was released, I think, in the late 70s. About 1979, I think. And the label for this album is just the standard EMI label they were using at this time. I've seen many albums on this label. But yeah, that's good. I would definitely recommend that album. And here I've got a bootleg released in 1989. The Beatles Stars of 63 on the classic Genuine Porky label, sorry, Swingin' Pig bootleg label. They're quite famous for doing bootlegs. And it's songs like live performances from a Swedish radio show, I believe. There's the label for this album. And this is also on like a transparent blue vinyl, which is nice. And here is some more coloured vinyl. This is it's a bootleg copy of the Beatles Christmas album. I don't have an original copy, unfortunately. And this is on red vinyl, this edition. And of course it has all of their Christmas fan club flexi recordings on this album. And the proper version of this album came out in 1970, but these are pretty recent releases. And there's the label. And here's the vinyl, on a nice dark red vinyl, very nice. And here is exactly the same thing again, except it's on green vinyl. Interestingly, it's also on a red apple label. Not entirely sure why. Maybe just because it contrasts nicely with the green vinyl. Very good. Finally, for this video, I've got the Beatles, The Alternate Revolver. And this is another bootleg release. I got this a couple of years back. And it's this on the front and this on the back. Here's what the inside looks like. On one side, Abracadabra, and on the other, the Beatles Alternate Revolver. Now, I'll show you Abracadabra first. So this basically has track listens there. Just different mixes of all these songs from Revolver. It's also got Rain stuck on the B side, stuck on the end of side 2 there as well. Some really weird mixes on here actually. Paperback writer over there as well. And it does tell you down there how things are different with the guitar and stuff like that. And on the other side here, here's the Alternate Revolver. Again, some very unusual mixes on some of these songs. So here's the side that calls itself the Alternate Revolver. Now interestingly, this looks more like a Dutch label because it's got like cant instead of side. For cant 1, side 1. And here is the Abracadabra side, which looks more like the UK label, except it's Parlophone rather than Parlophone, and obviously a dollar sign instead of the pound sign. And this is on green vinyl. Alright, so that's the end of this video. There was no real theme to this video. Like I said at the beginning, it was just random albums. Well anyway, thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you all next time.